All right, so if you want the Snyder Cut, you're literally a person who does terrible acts reading between the lines. Gina Carano, Bill Burr, Rosario Dawson, Henry Cavill. If you cancel all the non-offensive people, you're left with silence, because somebody is always going to find offense with something. Oh, and if SJWs think Bill Burr is offensive, then we're on different planets. These are peak first world problems, which is funny because America is slipping into becoming a second and third world in many areas. Twitter commie kids are offended by the very milquetoast Bill Burr, but are fine with tent cities creeping across America. Marxists are weird. If a comedian is offensive to their purse puppy of the week, then he needs to be made homeless. And believe me, if they could go further than that, they would. Perhaps in time. But if a BLM guy goes to jail for struggle snuggling and deleting someone from life, then he needs to be forgiven. Because reasons. Involuntary servitude existed everywhere. America stopped it and they went to war over it. But it actually exists right now in the Middle East and Africa. Zero BLM care because they can't get any money from it. So what happens with canceling celebrities? If you compel them to get off social media, which they don't want to do because it's an easy way to advertise themselves. So if they're on Twitter, they're at the mercy of these witch hunters. And the thing is, with the culture war, is it changes, the battlefield changes so rapidly that celebrities can kind of get left behind on issues, which is why people on the left are terrified to have any independent thoughts. They always search a consensus first. So they'll say, like, they'll put up a thought balloon. They'll say, well, what do we feel about this issue, to see what the crowd... Because with SJWs, they always want to be at the center of the herd. Which is funny, because Bleeding Fool had that article about the Whisper Network, which is, you got this crowd of SJWs, but you've got this group of SJWs that are so toxic to work with that the rest of them are saying, you know, maybe we need to, like, separate them off into their own thing. So who knows what'll happen with that. If you want to work in Hollywood or in comics or any of these, you know, like hippy-dippy type of fields, you got to be a globalist. You have to be a rudderless sailboat and go whichever way the wind blows. Even abstaining from action isn't enough. Henry Cavill got dragged because he didn't welcome a new cast member to a show. It's possible that he isn't on Twitter all day, every day. The thing is, these cat ladies are on Twitter for 4 hours a night. They don't read books, or they don't go for walks. Twitter is their second life. If you're on Twitter, you can make a time map of their tweet history over a period to sort of get an idea of how much their life revolves around Twitter. If you're using Twitter to sell something, great. But these soy women mostly are not. All they get is a dopamine. They don't get paid. They don't get exercise or even orgasms out of it. All they get is dopamine burnout. They feel like they matter because they can get on a hate train when they burn a new witch. It's funny, even left-wingers get kicked off Twitter, so they are starting to show up on Gab, which they are trying to turn into Twitter. Here's the thing. I hope they do fire Bill Burr and Rosario Dawson. The more canceled people there are, the better for us if we're trying to build our own platforms and parallel entertainment companies, I guess. Sort of like building our own cultural spaces free of SJWs, which is happening now. It's still small, but we've got Odysee, BitChute, Gab, and Gab TV, which is going to be the next live streaming platform. Dlive to some extent, though they do censor. But Odysee is interesting because it allows you to tip the creators in Bitcoin, which is a trip. If you cancel Rosario for some imaginary transphobia, most people are going to know it's ridiculous. But if she gets kicked out of left-wing Hollywood roles, where's she going to go? She is going to be forced to work with other canceled people and form a new Hollywood. Some small directors and producers who are looking for work will work with these canceled people, so in turn they will also get canceled, which is fine because left-wing Hollywood isn't booming right now. Any work is better than none. And really, like, if you just want to make movies, you got, yeah, like if you're holding out for purity tests in hopes of being in this big league, like far, far left Hollywood crew, you're better off just going out off on your own, raising the money yourself, doing a Clerks type of thing. If it's good, people will come to it. And this new Hollywood will be labeled alt-right, but those labels lose their meaning when they call everybody that. If Rosario Dawson is a Nazi, then you're going to get a lot of new converts to Hugo Boss, which I think is a beautiful thing. It can be a very inclusive party. This far-left group is being led by the trans group, which is why the super straight movement made them lose their minds, which is good because there's a lot of people on the left who are starting to realize that most of the people on the far left are mentally ill. And the thing with the left is they want to be so inclusive and all this, but you've got a lot of legitimate mental illnesses, not cultural zephyrs they're surfing, but like organic brain damage to a lot of people on the far left, and a lot of it is drug induced. Like if you look at the arrest photos for Antifa and BLM, you're going to see a lot of meth and coke and crack and stuff. They have a certain look to their eyes, so it's like, yes, they're in Antifa, they're probably a good percentage of the foot soldiers, but if you see someone who's 25 and they look like they're 35, it's like, okay, you're living rough and you're probably doing a lot of meth. But to kick them out is like, oh, well, they're trans and they're non-binary and they're a WOC. It's like, yeah, but they're a drug-addicted sex worker, and they're like leading the charge, and you can't do anything about it because if you say, oh, this person has bad ideas, well, then you're a bigot. So the far left is kind of painting themselves into a corner. The funny thing is, when the commies do seize power, and they probably will, all these useful idiots are going to be put into work camps, and there won't be any social media, there won't be any smartphones, and you won't be free to leave. You'll just be there doing agricultural work. I hope it doesn't come to that, but history does have a way of circling back. So this is Bill Burr, the far-left, alt-right, racist Nazi, Bill Burr. And that's his wife. So the tolerant, inclusive left has a lot to say about him and his wife, because he made a couple of very milk-toast... And if you think Bill Burr is edgy, oh my God. He made a couple of milk-toast jokes about feminism, which would probably be funny 6 years ago. So that's his wife. Okay. He kind of came out at the right time for showing some backbone, because it's kind of like he lost his cred when he didn't defend Gina. It's like, you're a comedian and you're supposed to be kind of an edgy comedian, pseudo-edgy, I guess, but you're not defending Gina Carano. It's like, then what do you have? What are you? You're just another cog in the machine, and Hollywood has plenty of cogs in the machines. But anyway, I don't think anyone would have watched any award show without some humor. So what do they want? They want somebody who comes out there and just does blonde man bad Trump jokes? That was okay 4 years ago, but that's kind of boring now. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, guys, and I'll see you on Odysee and BitChute and Gab TV.